and on Tuesday we lean more the news, and on Thursdays we do a live show and interview people in the space with the projects that are coming out. So I want to make two comments about that. One is Gary Vaynerchuk did one of the most brilliant things, more brilliant than VeeFriends perhaps, that I've seen done in the NFT space. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday, so make sure you go subscribe to the Nifty Show on your podcast player, because this is going to blow you away. It's an incredible business-minded decision that he made, and I'm absolutely floored by what he's done. That's one thing. The other thing is there's two launches coming up on Wax this week that either Travis or myself are involved in. One of them is the Stony Baloney card set. These cards are freaking hilarious. The artwork is fantastic. If you're 420 friendly especially, you'll enjoy this. It happens on Tuesday the 31st at 4:20 p.m. StonyBaloneyCards.com. We'll have a link to that right here in these show notes. Okay, so badco.in/544 is where you'll find the show notes. No, it's 544. 544. 544. So badco.in/544. The other one is Darren Cullen at Graffiti Kings is launching a generative series on Wax. And there's 10,000 crypto Moonboy Bitcoin kids. And he said very specifically, I don't want a single one of these to be treated like their floor. I want every single piece of artwork from these 10,000 to be highly desirable. So he doesn't want any that just have two attributes. He wants them to be loaded, like at least 4 or 5 attributes each, so that you get a really unique original piece of art. The website for this launches on Monday at CryptoMoonboys.com. The launch takes place at noon Eastern on Friday, September 3rd. We're involved in both of these. While we're not financial advisors, we are specialists in NFTs, and every project that we have been a part of so far has sold out completely. So we recommend that you take a look at these two, and again, you'll find links in the show notes.
Let the nifties hit the float. Let the nifties hit the float. All right. Great stuff. This is like a little combo episode here. So if you don't listen to the Nifty show that we have, the NFT specific one, you're going to want to tune into that. Maybe, because there's some great stuff going on in the space. And so it's definitely, some people look at it and go, oh God, they're JPEGs and blah, blah, blah. No, they're advanced media. These are things that are unlocking experiences. They're not just images, they're not just JPEGs. They can be videos, images, text, audio, links, AR, VR, 360, geo-proximity based. They can lock when you're at venues. You can do so many different things, and they're programmable. They can change over time. Like, there's so much going on, and it's only getting started. And I tell you what, it's one of the ways, like in talking and learning and researching about NFTs and crypto, that's one of the ways that will help you stay back.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence in consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.
That expensive, especially if you just want the liability cover. It's more expensive if you want to start covering the drone and then
between the new technologies and consumers, and it's a tremendous opportunity.
It is, and so you foresee, Ripple and XRP sort of fitting into that? Are you guys maybe looking at building sort of marketplaces? Are you building technologies for people to be able to launch NFTs? Are you looking more enterprise level? corporations are going to be utilizing? Like, some of the things, how are you thinking about it over there?
Wow. That's a great question. It's also, kind of a tricky question. So, we invested in Mint, marketplace that allows people to, easily buy, create, and sell digital items. And I think the direction that the industry is going to go is, at first, like, people are going to want to engage with the like names that they know. I think you're going to see expansion on that end, similar to what NBA Top Shots has done. There are a lot of big heavyweights out there that have portfolios of digital rights that they would like to monetize. And then I think you're going to see the sort of community ground up growth of the random person who has something, some sort of something that they can produce, like small artists and large artists driving the way. So I think you're going to have a little bit of a meet at the middle. You're going to have sort of a bottom up, and you're going to have sort of a top down kind of effect going on. It's also part of sort of tokenization more broadly. So as far as like how does that impact things like the XRP ledger? I think we're getting to a world where you're going to see broader tokenization, where people can more easily buy and sell assets. Like what happens today is I get paid in dollars, and I can move them to a brokerage account, or I can buy things, but I can only buy the things that like that brokerage account is connected to. If you think that the world is going to become more tokenized, as I think I do, then first of all of those tokens can't live on the same blockchain. There's just we don't know how to build a blockchain that scales to that level without essentially becoming multiple blockchains. To get that, you're going to have that horizontal scaling. And I think features that the XRP ledger has, like its decentralized exchange and its integration of payments with with that exchange, are the kind of features that people are going to need in this world, where they can sort of, I get paid in dollars, but I immediately move my money into gold because I'm a gold bug, or I like to hold a lot of Bitcoin or XRP, or, I go to the grocery store and I want to pay them with shares of Apple stock. Like, to give people that kind of flexibility, we're going to have to build an interoperable world. So federated sidechains can do that. You could also imagine NFTs that can move from chain to chain. That technology is not that terribly difficult to develop. So I kind of see NFTs as part of that sort of broader move to tokenize everything, and the sort of end product to the end user is that their digital rights, their money, their investments are all easily managed in a platform that's really under their control, that's not through a single custodian or operator.
I think that there'll be a federated side chains of America or something in the future. The FSA, we're on your side. Maybe not.
Well, you really want federated sidechains operated by diverse groups that have so well aligned so that they're unlikely to sort of conspire against you. So that's where things are going to get interesting to figure out. How do you build something? You want to build things that you can't control, but like the incentive to build something is that you expect to monetize it in some way. Like, people generally don't build things out of the goodness of their heart. But there is one interesting thing going on in this industry. Like, I say people don't generally build things out of the goodness of their heart, but there are ways that things that you would normally think someone would only do because they were like a nice person who wanted to help the world be in economic interest. Like, a good example would be Google developing technologies like SPDY and HTTP2. Like, Google is not going to monetize those technologies. These are technologies that make the World Wide Web a better place for everyone. Google can't make money on those core technologies. But the better the World Wide Web is, the more money Google can make, because the market for search is like people using the World Wide Web. And the more you use the web, the more things you use it for, the more things you're going to need to search for. And so Google can afford to make the internet a better place, even though they can't directly monetize it, because that furthers their business model. And the same thing is true of like Twitter, right? Twitter benefits tremendously from the fact that I have internet access in my home, and I have this phone right here that, I can tweet on anytime I want to. But Twitter didn't give me home internet access to that phone. The whole ecosystem did. And cryptocurrency companies like Ripple, their target markets, like if you imagine the cryptocurrency landscape 10 years from now, the target users, that market that we'll market to, doesn't exist today. Like, there aren't enough cryptocurrency users. Your grandmother, my stereotype, I should use grandfather to not be gendered, or I guess that's discriminating against the elderly. There's no perfect example, but like the stereotypical person who wants to be able to drive a car but doesn't want to be a mechanic, or wants to use a computer but doesn't have the time to learn how to build one, could be a busy executive even. Like, cryptocurrency is really not for them now. There's an enormous amount of specialized knowledge you have to have. Do your own research is the cry in this space. Well, boy, if you had to do all that research, to drive a car or to use a computer, people just wouldn't. You can't have mass adoption that way. Only people who have these sort of niche interests. The path to mass adoption is going to be when you don't have to have that sort of expertise and knowledge, when you have that target market of people who can easily use cryptocurrency services because like that sort of decentralized world exists. So I think what we need to do is we need to realize that like everyone in this space benefits from a bigger pie. We benefit from there being more cryptocurrency users. Even if you're not a Bitcoin maximalist, more Bitcoin users is good. Like if you're an Ethereum person, people who have Bitcoin can easily buy Ethereum, can easily interact with the Ethereum blockchain. And so we really are all in this together. We can build these decentralized systems.
I don't understand the mentality of Bitcoin maximalists to say everything else is a shitcoin when there are so many utilities for these so-called shitcoins that do things that Bitcoin doesn't do, or does things Bitcoin does faster. I don't understand it. You can't. I don't see anybody making NFTs on Bitcoin. So
it's so ironic because the thing that inspired me about Bitcoin was this message, this ethos that don't build on the legacy systems that have layers and layers of cruft that have accumulated, that are built on the bottom pipes in the financial system were built in the 60s and 70s, and that's still like when you do a wire transfer, it's still like, the transfer still happening. There are many systems where transfer still only happened during business hours because like the tapes were on the, you couldn't take the tapes out of the machine at any other time. Like it was crazy. It's crazy. And the ethos in Bitcoin was like, let's just throw all that crap away. Let's build a new bottom layer that's based on the best technology, and people will use it because it will be the best thing out there. And yeah, you won't enrich like the incumbents in the financial system, but the hell with that. Do what's best for you. And the weird thing is now, when you go to the Bitcoin maximalist, you tell them, well, your throughput is lower than what other people have, and your transaction fees are higher, and they'll say, well, build on Bitcoin and come up with higher layers that will like solve those problems. But like you can build higher layers that solve the problems with the dollar, right? Like you could be like the incumbents will tell you, build on top of the dollar, build on top of the traditional financial system. You can add new layers to fix any. You can always add new layers to fix problems. You can always do that. But the ethos was not to do that. The ethos was to build on the best possible bottom layers, because bad bottom layers, they infect their way up. Like, and it's weird to me that like big Bitcoin is now saying build on Bitcoin rather than the platforms that are cheaper and faster and better for your particular applications. And let's be honest, the reason they're trying to do it is to enrich themselves. Like they're incumbents. They're like, if you hold a lot of Bitcoin, you're a Bitcoin incumbent, and you expect yourself to be enriched by broader adoption of Bitcoin.
It's sort of like absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like if you have your hands in, like, I own a whole lot of Bitcoin, I want Bitcoin to win. I don't want these other coins to win. Shut up about them. Yeah, it's something in human nature that once they get that sort of power, it's like they always try. It's just a weird scenario. I want to actually talk about this here real quick, because you guys have some raving fans. You guys got haters, but you got raving fans too. Like I'm connected with a couple of really good dudes. Brad Kimes, who's Digital Perspectives and Digital Asset Investor, and these guys are on YouTube, and they're talking about XRP pretty much all the time. There's so much stuff going on with XRP. Like, you get mouthpieces talking about your company out there all the time, and you guys getting free advertising because you got so many raving fans. Like, what did you guys do over time to kind of build and nurture your community? Because you really have a rabid fan base.
I think there are a couple of things. I think the big one is just to be consistent, just to deliver a message that you believe, and that you act in ways that are consistent with the thing that you're saying. And I think the other thing is something that I kind of struggle with, and because it's so important to me and that I've focused on very much, is when you say things that sound good to people, like when you say to people like, I value diversity, or you say things like, doing good is important to me, people will always think, oh, that's just something that like everybody says. And the problem is, like, when you're talking to people who are going to then go and do things, if they think about the things you say as things you don't mean, then communication becomes impossible, and like running a company becomes impossible. People are like, oh, that's just something the CEO always says. Like, and if you make it clear that like you really mean the things that you're saying, like when I say we are in this together, we need to grow the pie. It's absolutely stupid for people in the crypto industry to be trying to fight for a bigger slice of this tiny pie we have now compared to what it could be, in a decade. you have to be consistent enough that people know that you mean it, and you have to show it in your own actions. And I think that message is what convinces people that you're not one of those people who is sort of just talking their own book. It's kind of a feedback mix. And I would bet a lot of those super fans probably hold XRP. And the cynical thing to say is, well, they're talking their own book. They hold XRP, and they're hoping that, in some way their messages will increase the value of XRP. But the reverse is also true. Like, if you believe the messaging around a particular cryptocurrency, if you believe that Bitcoin is going to take over the world, then if you really believe that, you're probably going to own some Bitcoin, right? Because you probably think its value is going to go up because of that. And so I understand the cynical view, but I think if you're very consistent with people and you even admit to things that are not to your advantage when that's the case, you say, look, and I've said this a lot. I've said to you, I don't want you to use XRP if it's not the right solution for your problem. XRP can't do some things that Ethereum can do. If you need those things, don't use, I don't want Ripple customers even. Ripple customers, people will say, why don't you force your customers to use XRP? Wouldn't that be good for you? If we give our customers bad experiences, we're not going to have customers. We really do need to grow the market, just like in internet companies in the 90s. If they wanted to be get more of the 90s internet users, right? They needed to grow the space. So we really, I can't, this is not just something that I say, we really do mean it when we say we're in this together, and that we need to build the markets that companies like Ripple will sell into in the future. And I think that vision is very inspiring, and I think that once people get that, I think kind of their attitude changes, and it does get you out of some of the cynicism of, well, everybody in this industry is just talking their own book.
You have many words, David, and I like
Sorry.
them. You don't apologize. When you're being interviewed, you're supposed to have many words and an interesting thought. So you've brought it today. I want to ask one more question here before we close out, and this is the XRP ledger moving forward. What are we looking out for here? If anybody's in tune with the developments, it's the CTO. What comes next?
So in the early days of the XRP ledger, very, very early, I realized that payments was a big use case. It was a multi-trillion-dollar problem. And I thought that if we could build the XRP ledger to be the best solution for payments, how could that not be enough? You're the best solution to a multi-trillion-dollar problem. And I kind of had this sort of, if you build it, they will come mentality. And I do believe today, that vision, shared by me and others, has been executed on. I do believe, if you look at the XRP ledger's characteristics, it is the best ledger for payments. And think that, everybody would use it's used for a lot of different things, but it certainly hasn't taken the payments world by storm. So I think that vision of being the best for payments is good, but it's not enough. And I think it would be foolish to sacrifice that and make the XRP ledger worse for payments, because I still think payments is a big problem that the XRP ledger could solve. But I think that it has to be, that the feature set has to be broadened. We built a decentralized exchange into the XRP ledger because we envisioned a multi-asset world. And so I think that tokenization, multi-asset, and I think the other thing is another early vision that I had for the XRP ledger was this idea that in most payment systems, that whether it's cross-currency, if you do a wire transfer, or, you send money out of the country, you use SWIFT, what happens is you don't get a choice of where the liquidity comes from. The payment company sort of decides how do your dollars turn to euros. And I had this vision of a system where the pools of liquidity were public and anybody could contribute to them and draw off them. So if I had dollars but I'd rather have euros, and you had euros but you'd rather have dollars, and someone has Bitcoin but they'd rather have Ether, they could sort of enter those preferences into a system that could sort of find that path and make those payments work. I think that is that kind of path to a tokenized where all the things that you want to have are tokenized, and you have this system where people who have the asset you want and want the asset you have can easily be found and discovered. I still think that's the big problem that cryptocurrencies and systems like the XRP ledger need to solve.
So take off your XRP Ripple CTO hat, and we're talking to David Schwartz. We're talking to Joel.
That's his hair that he's wearing. You don't want him to take that off.
Tap into the Joel Katz persona, your mind. You've been on the internet. What most excites you right now, in crypto, or maybe in technology? What are some of the things that are just that you're exploring and you're, holy shit, this could.
Well, I have kind of two answers to that. So one of them is zero knowledge proofs, like as a cryptographer to me. I think like in the early days of public key cryptography, for those who may not know, public key cryptography is like what makes everything secure on the internet. It's how you can use your credit card on the internet. It's an amazing technology. And it was developed by researchers in the military, both in the United States and in Great Britain in the 70s. And nobody used it for anything for like 30 years or 25 years. I think zero knowledge proofs are kind of in that same vein. These are so fundamentally new thing that you can do with cryptography that it's used in privacy coins like Zcash. But it really is something that could enable us to solve a very, very big dilemma that we have, which is we have a dilemma between privacy and trust. If you want to lend me money, you need to trust me. I'll give you a whole bunch of information about me. I have to trust you not to like give out that information. And we all know what happens. Information just leaks out there like massively. Zero knowledge proofs can resolve that dilemma and allow me to prove to you that I'm creditworthy without giving you any information that you could share to anybody else. Literally all you would know is that I'm somehow creditworthy. And it's incredibly broad, the applications for that technology. So that's tremendously exciting to me because we don't know what the applications of that are going to be, but it solves a really big like ecosystem problem. I think the other thing that's exciting to me is giving people more freedom and more ability to manage their money. I'm very privileged. I live in the United States. I make a good salary. Like I can easily invest money. I'm not the kind of person who just has to, live paycheck to paycheck. But there are a lot of people who don't have control over their finances because they don't have that kind of access to the financial system. And that's a tool of oppression the same way like information was a tool of oppression prior to the internet. People in North Korea used to think Kim Jong-il, their leader at the time, was a respected intellectual in the West because that was all they heard. And they got to the point where they were like sharing flash drives of Western media about their leader. So then that became it's one thing to be able to say, yeah, life sucks in our country. We're poor, we're poor and hungry. But in the United States, nobody has health care and people are vomiting in the streets. Which, while true, is a very misleading. It's an incredibly misleading.
Only in San Francisco. Oh, no,
right?
Being in the streets. Sorry.
Right. But you can paint that misleading picture if you have control over the flow of information. And similarly, like you can use control over the flow of money as a tool of oppression. Governments like print money to create wars. They debase the currency as a tool of oppression, and they can find out how people are spending their money. This possibility of cryptocurrency as a human liberating force is just, it's been tremendously inspiring to me. And it's what I saw in Bitcoin in the very early days. And I think we're moving in the direction of delivering on that promise. And I will add one more thing, and this is where a lot of people say, well, yeah, but but like enterprises are going to take it over, and well, enterprises took over the internet, and for a long time, it's instructive to look at what